Like, I can sit on $10,000 in Red Dead, but what does that mean? What can I do with it? You could say, well, Jasper, you can go give it to Dutch and his little thingy thing. Like, that doesn't do anything, right? If I don't give any money to my group, I don't lose the game, right? It's just, it's implied. It's the game implores you to do so, but you don't have to. You know what I mean? You don't have to. They'll say, hey, Arthur, you haven't been given your fair share of things like that, but you don't fail the game for not giving money. And if you give $10,000, the game is still going to end exactly the same. So even I don't feel motivated to go off and do odd jobs and bounty hunts and things like that, you know? And I guess with Red Dead Redemption 1, that's kind of what makes it a little bit better, even though it's not, in terms of like cutscene wise and graphics and stuff, is the fact that you are a lone cowboy. And so it's kind of like more or less your story, rather you being tied to an entire group of individuals, which is it's a good thing to be tied to a group of individuals, but it's like the interaction with them is so minimal. Again, they have 1,000 lines of conversations. Like, the amount of conversations you can have with everyone in your camp, it's second to none. But why would I go off and talk to Abigail? Why would I go off and talk to John Marston? Why would I go off and talk to, like, why would I? What do I get for doing so? So, and it's not like in the end of the game, whoever likes you goes with you in the end, and, you know, they survive. Like, no, that doesn't matter. People still die story wise anyway. So I feel I have less control, basically. And so if you say, Jasper, you know, high honor, low honor, you can do those two routes. Like, again, I don't see a point in doing so. The game is still going to end the same way ish, you know. So it's not really that big of a deal to me, you know. And Fable is you choose between bringing back people's families from mass genocide. You can choose to bring back your family if you have one and your pet, or you can choose to have a good amount of money in your pocket. Greed, basically. At least there's a little bit extra coming there, because people do reference the fact that you brought them back, or they would understand that you brought your family back. You know what I mean? There's like, I understand. You know what I mean? Or they're like, okay, you chose money, you greedy bastard, and everyone hates you. Again, I just wish there was more of that, but instead more of the choices are during each mission, you know what I mean, rather than the actual overall arcing story, which is fine. It's just, like I said, I don't feel motivated to go back and actually try new things out. I'm not a big fan of over cinematic high graphic video games, because they don't really offer much of anything. I can't think of a game that I played that had like stunning graphics and a stunning world, where the NPCs choices and the world itself felt like it was not alive. You know, I don't want to use that term, but it had consequences. Basically, that's the word I'm looking for. I don't think I've ever played a game that has good graphics and high amounts of consequence and NPC flexibility. Again, you walk around the world of GTA 5. There's a reason why people play the online mode, because it's that player versus player aspect, you know, the social aspect of the game that people love about it more than anything else. You don't see people just playing the story mode anymore. The only people who play the story mode are the YouTubers who make like meme videos about, this is what happens when you kill Trevor early on in the game, or this is what I did with Franklin's character at some point. But no one's really doing that themselves. Everyone's playing the online mode because, again, the social aspect. And so I look at the game, and I see that it did have potential to have, you know, more. Franklin and his girlfriend, I know they broke up in the very beginning. It'd have been nice for you to actually do some side missions, or be able to openly call her and take her out on dates and actually have conversations that possibly patch things up, you know. Or same thing with your wife as well, when you play as Michael, or your children, to actually do activities with them, not missions, because I know you actually bike with your son at one point. That doesn't count. That's contextual. I mean, non-contextual, you're choosing to go out of your way, you know. And even when you do call them up to hang out and stuff like that, again, the end result is going to be the same, you know. They're still going to hate you until mission-wise, you know, you get far into the game where they actually do like you, you know. I just feel like that's a little disappointing. I wish, because I wanted to be a good husband to my wife in Grand Theft Auto 5. I did. But the game said, no, Jasper, we're going to there is no being a good husband until after everything happens. It's like, oh, it's too story based, you know? But like I said, in games like Fable, I can build a relationship with a random NPC if I wanted to. And I feel like that means a whole lot more, me wanting to build a relationship, than saying, all right, Jasper, in order for you to be able to love this certain character, you have to do 900 missions story-wise, and then you can come back and the character's going to like you. It's like, okay, so I didn't fuck it up. It's just the game says contextually they're gonna love you at some point. It's like, it doesn't mean as much. You know, I don't really feel like I earned it. It's just the story mode gave it to me because contextually now it's time. So it looks like I'm giving Rockstar a hard time, but those are the only games right now off the top of my head that I know everyone can relate to. That I feel like could have done a whole lot better, making the world feel a little bit more personal. But it just, like I said, I feel like in terms of a living, breathing world, like their definition of it for both this and Red Dead Redemption was people being on their cell phones and having idle conversations. And it's like, that I don't care. I don't care about NPCs being on their phones. I don't care about NPCs walking their dogs, which they don't do, by the way. I don't care about NPCs having, conversations in a pub. Like, those things don't affect me. Now, me being able to have conversations would be nice, you know what I mean, with characters. That'd be cool. But even in Red Dead Redemption, they tried that, and it's such a simple system, you know? It's just a system of, you can say hi twice, and then you can't talk to them anymore. You know, it's like, well, that's fine. I mean, you can do the same thing in Bully, you know? But even Bully's system is vastly better than Red Dead's, and they're both a Rockstar game. The only difference is one came out back in the fucking day, and their system's a whole lot better. You can actually get a girlfriend on Bully, you know what I mean? Based on, your interactions with that character. Then again, it is kind of story based when you can actually interact with some of these girls and when they start to like you, but still, you can actually break up with your girlfriend on that game too. You can actually cheat on your girlfriend and you guys aren't going to be cool anymore. You know what I mean? So that is something else. And if the girl does find you cheating, you can either get slapped or you can see them actually fight each other, the girl and the other girl, basically. So again, those are interesting interactions that you don't really get with the new age games, especially from Rockstar. I just wish there was more you can do in those games. But again, my thing is, the reason why people love those games so much is because it's highly social and the graphics are good. Which again, like I said, that's fine. The graphics can be as good as it wants you to be. Like, I don't really care about graphics. Again, I know people who go back to play the games like Skyrim and stuff like that are like, well, the graphics aren't as good as they used to be. Aren't as good. But like I said, notice how people are still talking about and playing those games story mode wise. Like, you don't need multiplayer for that game to be good. The game is just good on its own because it gives you so much to do. Again, Fallout's another example of that too. People still play those games religiously because it has so much to offer outside of multiplayer. Again, we're going back to Los Santos, and you guys remember you can go to the gym. Remember you guys could work out. Remember you guys could have a girlfriend, actually have a relationship on the game. You guys remember all that stuff? Remember when you can actually hang out with your homeboys? And again, like I said, you could go eat food, and they had like a weight gauge, and you can go to the gym. You can get your stamina up, so you can sprint longer. You can go underwater and get your lung capacity up, so you can breathe longer underwater, so you get some of that those underwater secrets that we have underneath the surface. You guys remember that? Remember the heavy clothes customization you could do with CJ? You guys remember all that stuff? You guys remember the badass campaign and you go from a hood dude up to a businessman? Remember that stuff? Yeah, we're going back to Los Santos. And they gave us none of that. None of it. They gave us none of that shit. They gave us none of it. And again, I was happy for heists until I realized that all heists were contextual to the story. It's not like I can call up Franklin and, hey, we're gonna pull off a heist right now. That's not what it was. No. Again, it was all contextual to the mission structure of the story, which again, you can't sport it off. You can say it's a new system. Basically, that's fine. But again, we've done this in GTA 4 already. We've already done heists before. That system isn't anything new. So I don't know why they sported it off like it was something awesome. It was something we've already experienced heists before. I guess the reason why I'm so hard on Grand Theft Auto is because it promised so much. It did. It basically said, okay, so alongside these awesome graphics, which the graphics are good, I'm not gonna say the graphics are not good. GTA is fucking beautiful. We have all these extra things you can do. But if it's one thing I know about video games is if the more you turned up the graphic fidelity, the lower the gameplay has to be. Because again, the graphics and the gameplay, there's way too many. It's too packaged, and so something has to give. If you want dynamic NPCs that all look different from one another, that's going to take up a lot of space. Animations, conversations, and how they spark those up with each other. Even though those things don't matter to you in your game, to make the world do that, it takes up a lot of space. So something has to go. So instead of them saying, okay, the gym mode, no, we're taking the gym out of Los Santos. Even though in San Andreas, which took place in the same location, which again, the game was basically banking off nostalgia. You can't tell me that it wasn't. Again, we're going back to Los Santos. We're going to take the gym aspect out. We're not going to do that. I mean, GTA 4 didn't have a gym aspect. But even in that game, you can go online and still get into relationships and have relationships. And if even with your friends, you can call your friends up. And if you hang out with your friends enough, like Roman and a few others, Jacob, again, they gave you bonuses. You know what I mean? Hell, they even extended that friendship system, not just with your best friends and your girlfriends. They extended that into Ballad of Gay Tony and Lost and the Damned, where if you hung up with your biker friends in Lost and Damned, you would be able to, hey, cool, if you need some guns or weapons, I can give it to you at a discounted price because you're my homeboy, and things like that. Like, that was nice in Lost in the Damned. Actually, that's actually my favorite expansion to Grand Theft Auto 4. Even though I didn't have the gym aspect, they did replace it with something else. You know what I mean? And again, they had darts in that game too, which was nice. The internet, which was nice. Oh, bowling. The reason I'm bringing these things up is because these are things that are non-existent in GTA 5. And if you want to tell me, right, that this game is the sequel and it has everything you guys were ever going to love, why can you just bring over darts, bowling, alongside golf and tennis, and give me the shooting range and then, the weapon upgrades and things like that you could do in the other games? Like, why couldn't you just give me everything? Why did you have to take out so many things out of your game and not use those? Like, GTA 4 was great. I think the only thing wrong with that game was just the driving mechanics, really. But it was really nothing else. Again, why couldn't you take everything from that game, all the extra shit you had in that game, and just add it to GTA 5? All the things that made San Andreas special, How come you just couldn't add that? I mean, even you can even gamble on horse races in GTA San Andreas. Sadly enough, you can do it in GTA 5, but it's in the online mode. It's like, so, okay, that's great and all, but it took you guys like 5 years to add that in. So it's like, it took you guys years to add something in that came at launch on the single player mode in a different game that came out back in 2006. Like, I don't understand how you guys can sit here and say that these are next gen games as a developer when all you give me is graphic fidelity. And yet when I play games that have lower graphics, they do have more to offer, You guys have never heard of this game, but there's a game out there called Good Life. I'm not going to go into any details about what it is and what it's about, but it is an indie game, which, again, I'm not surprised. And it does have an extensive system centered around a survival aspect. Not necessarily as a survival game, but, again, it's best to eat because it gives you things. And there's different types of upgrades you can get to your character for, eating certain types of foods and going places. You gotta make sure your character is comfortable, kind of like Sims a little bit. But it's a open world game, so it's a weird mix. But again, like I said, the graphics aren't really that good. So I know a lot of people aren't going to give it a try because graphics are really important to some people. And that's why they were never important to me. Because I'm so tired of looking at game sequels and they talk about how graphic fidelity is. And then it turns out that, again, the game is empty. Of course, no one looks for those things because people are so all-inspired by the graphics. Like, the graphics are so good. So why? I don't see the problem, Jasper. It's like, well, that basically is. Again, I fell in love with San Andreas not because of the graphics, but because of the gameplay. And if you want to tell me that we're going to take out some of the best things that made it special for the sake of having better NPCs and more dialogue, then I'm like, I don't want nothing to do with it. Like I said, I don't mean to be hard on Grand Theft or any of those other Rockstar games. I really don't. But I just kind of wish that there was more when they gave me more and didn't ask for anything else, I feel like the game became just a little too corporate. So instead of me sitting back and just complaining as I play the game, I just don't play it at all. I just would rather play games that aren't too up there with graphics. But like I said, that's not to say the story modes are good, I'm sure a lot of people like the story modes, which again, that's all subjective. I'm not really going to talk about how good or bad a story mode is, even though I don't really like them. The alternative is, again, what the game does offer and what the game did take out as content. Those are things you can't really argue with. They did take out a lot of content out of these newer games that are coming out, and they're basically leaning on story, cinematics, and dynamic NPCs, as in dialogue and graphics with them as well. And those things aren't important to me. They never have been. I never looked at San Andreas and say, those NPCs has terrible graphics. They don't do anything. They're never on the phone. This world doesn't feel alive. Like, no, those weren't complaints no one had, because the game has so many more things to offer than dynamic NPCs and graphics. Hell, you can't even play pool in GTA 5, and that sucks because you can play pool in both GTA 4 and number 3, and I like pool. in real life. So playing those in those, actually GTA San Andreas and GTA 4 are the reasons why I like pool in real life today. So seeing them take out those systems, man, it just kind of makes me feel like they don't really care, that those systems didn't matter, or we can't add those dynamic systems in alongside of our graphics, especially if we want to push this game out at a time where we can make the most profit, you know. So again, it's like, oh, GTA 6 is coming out. Like, forgive me for not being excited. I don't care. It's just going to be another high graphics game with not much to offer. And let's just say it does offer a lot of different things that the previous games did. Like, why would you wait so long? You know what I mean? I'm a grown-ass man now. GTA 5 came out back when I was in college. Back when I was in my fucking 20s, dude. Like early 20s, like 20, like 19 or 20. Bro, it took you guys fucking 10 years to make a game worth a damn? With all the money you have in the world? It's like those live-action Disney movies. It's like you guys have all the money in the world, and yet this is what you guys choose to do with all that money. It's just, you guys could do so much better. There are people who have less money who are doing better because they feel like they have to try. Whether you're sitting so comfortably where you're at right now, you know you don't have to, because people are just gonna gobble that shit up. Again, I thought Cyberpunk would be the thing that pushed GTA 5 or at least Rockstar to start making better games. You know, I thought it would be like, okay, this is how you make an open world game, right? This is how you do it. Nope. Once again, like I said, I corporatized. Again, they got too corporate. The game has been in development for fucking 10 years and still somehow disappointed, and I don't understand. Again, I just want better. That's all. I just want better. I know they can do better. It's just corporate. Again, they have so many other people in their ear about what they should and shouldn't do. Well, I want to put a system in the game that does this. Well, no, that's going to either take too much time to develop, or that's not important. That's just how I perceive it to be. Because I know there's a lot of creative people in the gaming industry. I just feel like their creativity is being crushed for the sake of being safe. Well, let's not do that. That's too ambitious, or it's just take too much time. I mean, they're gonna buy it anyway if we keep on sporting it off like we do. Like, Cyberpunk was the most hyped game. Again, like I said, if we still sport it off as one of the best games to ever happen, when people play it, they're gonna believe that they're playing the best game to ever happen. And don't get me wrong, like I said, when it released, everyone jumped down his throat for it not being the best game. But then, once the game started to update and the game ran a little bit better, people said, okay, yeah, time to give it another try. It's like, no, the game is still fucking terrible. Because none of those things that they promised you are in the game, and the systems that are in there still don't make it. Still don't mean anything. Those consequences still aren't there. They still lied. So I don't see why you're giving this a chance. Oh, because it runs better. Because that was the problem that was wrong with the game. It wasn't the fact that they didn't have any systems in the game, and it didn't run good. It was the fact that it just didn't run good. It's like, no, I'm not. You miss me with all that shit. You're not gonna sit here and direct my attention over there and say that's what you need to focus on. Like, I know what I wanted from Cyberpunk. I know what I wanted, and they didn't give it to me, unfortunately. As they were making like deals with like big rappers and stuff like that and celebrities, I feel like they could have been using all that money to actually develop the fucking game. Like, it takes money to do that shit. Like, you guys could have put that money back into the fucking game to give us those systems, those dynamic systems you guys said we were gonna have. No, we spent that money on rappers, singers, celebrity cameos, and to making sure our game that doesn't really have much in it to run better. It's like, okay, great, that's awesome. And like I said, maybe one day Cyberpunk is gonna be, maybe one day they're gonna add in those systems, bit by bit, right? But again, the game won't be finished and won't have all those things in it if they were to do that. Let's say they are, it won't be done in like another 5 years, or the shit would have been in a game already. It's been like what, two years after the game launched? About a year or two after the game is launched. Again, none of those systems are in the game just yet, so it's going to take a lot of time. I just wish they built the game ground up with all those things in mind. It looks like they didn't. Looks like the game got away from them, and they just basically said, okay, cool, since we have so much hype around our game, let's just keep the hype train going. Because as long as people are hype, you know what I mean, that means we're gonna make more sales. And then we had YouTubers fucking lie to us about how good the game actually was, and when they're playing like a either the good build of the game, or they basically just lied about how good the game actually was, and then they come out after the game released and said, yeah, the game is not as good. It's like, that's kind of fucked up. I wish we would have known this before. But again, you couldn't have told them that. No, because then we wouldn't have made sales. Again, these guys can give us dynamic worlds. Yeah, the graphics might not be that good, but again, that's what they pride themselves on. Next gen means good graphics. No, I feel next gen means more dynamic systems. It means what you couldn't do in a previous game because you guys didn't have the technology for it. You guys have, or the money. You now have the money and the technology to give it to us, and you're basically choosing not to. for the sake of giving us horse balls.